Okay, I'm here to talk about a measurable reflexive performance reset um, session that we had, and we also included the Athos shorts. At this time, they also have shirts and other body wearable devices that you can see. You probably know what RPR is, but what we have here is the Athos. Quick explanation. I mean, this really doesn't do it any justice, but you can see that it takes the body and you can measure the variable parts, and then what it does is it measures the amount of stress that that particular muscle's under and gives you live feedback onto your phone or other wireless devices. So the athlete would essentially be wearing shorts at this point and a shirt that'll give the feedback of the live muscle, and it basically is sensors to capture real-time muscle activity. And they also, not only do they have a phone, but obviously they have downloadable software platform that you can see online and then download the numbers and compare it on their dashboard. Also, you can quantify the amount of work that's done, and that's what we did here with training load. Okay, Athos training load allows you to quantify how much the athlete's been stressed and rested. So what we had was an athlete. We just put the athlete through 20. To be honest, we just put them through 28 rehab exercises. We were looking at all the rehab exercises to see which ones we would like for certain instances. Okay, and what we found, so the athlete had no discrepancies that we knew of, unfounded, no problems, but then the athlete exhibited a left quad dominance. Now, so then we realized that we needed to do an RPR session on the athletes. The athlete worked out the RPR, and then the goals hopefully were going to be that with the RPR session that we had a overall decrease of the anterior-posterior ratio and an overall decrease of the amount of work to do the same number of sets and reps with the 28 rehab exercises. 28's a lot, yes, so there is some fatigue in there, but you can see even with fatigue we still had a considerable change in our ratios. Okay, so the overall execution was to reduce training load, hopefully with the RPR, and the anterior-posterior ratios reduced bilaterally. Okay, so here's an example of basically what happened of all the 28 movements. Now, the big thing is that the training load was reduced by 11%. Okay, so doing the same amount of work, pre and post RPR, we had a complete overall 11% decrease in load. Now, what that means is that the muscles were less activated with the same weight, okay, and the same movements. So they were functioning better. But here's the one thing that's not quantified on here. The movements, each of these 28 movements were faster. So if you're using the same weight and the movement goes more efficiently and faster, but you're recruiting less muscles, you have a much better individual, more functioning individual. Okay, and then here the posterior recruitment was increased by 10%. Okay, reducing the stress on the quads, which problem becomes when you have somebody that's quad dominant, you get knee pain, tendonitis, and anterior problems that exist. So our goal was to decrease that. Okay, the movement execution, obviously we had the what happened after we did the RPR, posterior ratios were reduced. The left anterior posterior ratio initially more quad dominant, as you saw there. Okay, that was the biggest change with RPR, and the left glute showing consistently increase of contribution because the left glute wasn't working as it should. Okay, the anterior posterior ratio was reduced bilaterally. You can see the difference in the left and the right glute. Okay, how the left glute and the right glute became pre and post with the left glute post activation. So before we were here, this now is the contribution 14%. So we had a pretty big increase in the left glute. Right glute, you can see, became more activated also. So these ratios, you can see we spotted problems that we didn't even know existed in this. This was in the lateral step down. Okay, one arm dumbbell squat, you can see how the quads post were reduced. Look at from 75% of the movement base to 57%, and then posteriorly, post RPR with the one-arm dumbbell single leg squat, you see that there's a greater glute in the left glute and the right glute now. You can see the post and pre ratios, okay, left to right. You can see how everything becomes more efficient. Single leg squat with a band around the waist, you can see how the left quad became more efficient, and the right quad was pretty effective, but our left quad was the main problem. You can see how the glute became more interactive, and then the right glute. The right leg and quad have been more efficient. So without a doubt, this athlete starts going into season, you would have seen the left quad and the left glute. The left side would have caught, he would have had some pain going in there. And that's the great thing about Athos, is that you're able to catch all these things just by sliding this on. Maybe you put your own athletes through their own series of checks. It could be as simple as a bike movement. It could be as simple as your favorite exercises. I would actually use your exercises and not somebody else's exercises, because the ones that you like the best, you want to try that exercise, because that's the one that they're going to be in most of the season when you're doing your lifts. Okay, so a quick summary. Achieve the goals of reducing training loads with RPR by 11% muscular stress, but they moved faster and more efficiently, and we reduced the anterior posterior ratios with the 10% positive. Okay, so then the knee pain's less likely to arise. Okay, we had the left quad dominance showed up clearly in these exercises. I didn't want to put all 28 there. Okay, but these were just the main exercises in examples. So after you've done that, if you're not with RPR, you can do some things. You can check isometric activation and the single joint movements to isolate them. You can work on cueing, such as with the RPR method, firing the glute, or squeezing the big toe to fire the glute. You can check range of motion, and then always refer to your chiropractor too for any structural issues that may be out, that may be causing some less activation in some of your muscles. If you see this, especially with the structural stuff, especially with the glutes, you can always have them check their SI joint or anterior and posterior tilted hips. Definitely something that the chiropractor or anyone qualified on your staff needs to be able to do.